Are you aware of the drastic changes that have been happening in the food system? Some of you may recall that I was here at this event last year warning that these products were coming. And today they're everywhere. All kinds of restaurants and fast food, health food stores like our local food co-op. There's plant-based biotechnology options with more showing up all the time. Last time I was here speaking, I listed companies that were producing these products. And over the past year, I've seen the biotech food world, along with biotech medicine, biotech beauty products, and more have exploded. I can't even begin to keep up. They claim they'll use less water and they will provide meat, milk, and egg type products without the fear of African swine flu or bird flu. It's food, safe from the laboratory. Using machine learning to mix and match aspects of life to make their synthetic biology dreams a reality, startups and new brand names are popping up all around the world. And this is spreading everywhere. The technology has been licensed, and incubators, accelerators, and conferences around the world are fueling this. In 1921, Henry Ford said, "The cow must go," proposing that milk should be made synthetically. And in 1931, Winston Churchill wrote about the future, when it would be possible to grow chicken breast or wings without having to grow a whole chicken. Science fiction has explored these ideas many times. These technologies have long since been introduced into the food and medical systems. The experiment got started back in the 1970s when science first produced a nature-identical insulin by introducing the insulin-carrying gene into a bacterium, causing it to copy what people generate naturally in their bodies. They've tampered with cheese too. In 1990, the FDA decided that laboratory-produced rennet, sourced from yeast and bacteria, was safe. Traditionally, cheese was made by utilizing the fourth stomach of an exclusively milk-fed calf. In the March 25, 1990 edition of the New York Times, a spokesman for the FDA is quoted as saying that the real advantage is that it is probably a much cheaper way of producing this substance than to grow calves. And in the same article, a spokesman for Pfizer, the drug company that developed this cost-cutting method, said that the market must have been in the tens of millions of dollars. The people working in this space are aware that normal people, busy people, are not likely to do much investigation to determine what they should and should not be eating. They know this, and they know you'll likely outsource authority to a trusted source. Sports stars and movie stars turning to these new plant-based foods, sometimes investing in the technologies. They know you're watching these people, and they want them to influence you. More and more celebrities are investing in this biotechnology space. Jay-Z, Trevor Noah, Leonardo DiCaprio, Katy Perry, the list goes on. They are situating themselves to profit off this food experiment. And the manufacturers are happy to have the backing of these people who can make eating highly processed artificial food look cool. Groups like the Good Food Institute are banking on people not caring that they're shifting the food system over to these high-tech production methods. They say that so long as it's cheap, easy, and tastes good, most people won't even care if their burger comes from a cow, a bacteria, or a bioreactor. Of course, it's easier to hit the drive-thru, and being chemically formulated for craveability, sometimes your body just wants fast food. It's quick and the price is right, and this is what they're counting on. The meat, dairy, and eggs consumed by many people, the ways that they are typically produced, is a threat to the environment and public health. The animals involved live unnatural lives and suffer for the sake of cheap food and profit. But just because food has been done this way for so long does not mean it has to stay this way. In fact, it's not going to. The change is coming, whether we act now or not, but their plan is for this new food experiment, fresh from the laboratory, and if people don't start pushing back, that's just what we'll get. I'm here to tell you that the people in charge of all that you eat, the majority of you, they've decided it's time for a change and they don't think you'll mind. Keep it cheap, keep it tasty, and back it with feel-good propaganda about saving the planet by abandoning nature for a man-made, nature-identical world. Some of us have been trained to desire sustainably produced, humane, non-GMO, local foods, and our health food stores select their products using these words as guidelines. It seems the industry was prepared for this. These synthetic biology products are being marketed to fit that, like the words have been weaponized or their meanings changed. Most people, I imagine, are aware of GMOs, transgenics, swapping existing genes from one species to another. Newer techniques allow them to redesign the genetic makeup of organisms through adding, deleting, silencing, or completely rewriting DNA. And they're saying that these food products that are expelled from their modified tiny life isn't even considered a GMO. They scramble up the DNA of algae, yeast, and E. coli and shock it back to life, and it becomes a living factory, but what it produces is somehow not a GMO. Engineered tiny life like bacteria, yeast, and algae are being used to produce proteins and other ingredients, but this engineered tiny life is considered only a processing aid and is not required to be disclosed on package labels. These plant-based meat analogs are some seriously processed food, and they're trying to sell it as a healthy option. High pressure, high temperature extrusion followed by cooling, and when they're trying to replicate the fibrous structure of pork, steak, or chicken breast, they use a stretching, spinning, and shearing technique called the shear cell process. I recognize for some of you, maybe that sounds great. Maybe some of you are excited for this new food world. I actually know one such individual. I would suggest that you are suffering from mind control, and I'm not joking. But the reason I'm here talking to you is because they're working toward changing it all over to this. The biggest food manufacturers in the world, the people that supply your food if you're shopping in grocery stores or eating out at restaurants or in cafeterias, these people who make your food are moving to a cheaper and more controlled system. Backed by governments and billionaires, advanced by higher education, and made possible by technology. Some of you might be wondering how these startups are able to afford researching obscure proteins to mix and match for their desired qualities. All forms of life on Earth are being sampled and their DNA stored in databases, whether it's the Protein Data Bank, the American Type Culture Collection, the Earth Biogenome Project, the Global Genome Biodiversity Network with its partnerships including the Vertebrate Genome Project, another for invertebrates, the 10,000 Plant Genome Project, the 5,000 Insect Genome Project, the Earth Bank of Codes, and on and on. They are sequencing all of the life, and then they can apply things like computational protein design, machine learning to mix and match to build whatever products they want. And these techniques are being applied to produce food ingredients, flavors, cosmetic ingredients, supplements, industrial chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and more. What they can mimic with these technologies is really mind-blowing. Would it make a difference to you if your CBD oil is sourced from an actual plant or from a modified tiny life engineered to produce a nature-identical product? Remember, it's not considered a GMO. I've heard it said by people in this new food industry that they need to not mess it up this time, that GMOs weren't properly explained to consumers. Some people rejected them. I don't really believe it was a mistake how they did things. They got people's arguments out of the way. They lulled the masses back to sleep and told them they'd label GMOs. And now, a tiny life like yeast or E. coli, scrambled up and rearranged to be a slave of its designer, can produce a product that is legally marketed to you as non-GMO. They knew what was coming all along, you see. They're following a long-running plan that can be seen if you'll just take the time to look. Food had to be industrialized in order for it to be bastardized, turning it into something that harms instead of nourishing the body. For too long, we have outsourced one of the most important needs we have. We must say no to this newest experiment. Don't be a guinea pig. Considering how they are brewing up these sci-fi foods using modified tiny lifelike algae and E. coli, it should make you pause when you read the reports of a completely man-made E. coli. Will they be designing those tiny things to be food factories? Should the 100% synthetic aspect of it make me feel better about the enslavement of the tiny life? Another side of these fake foods that we should consider is what it takes to create them. Could eating these products harm us? Do you remember hearing about meat glue? It made the headlines years back with butchers being tricked by reformed meats that had been glued together. Looking at the patents for Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, I see transglutaminase, meat glue, referenced several times. It looks to be part of what holds their highly processed meat analogs together. The study, Microbial Transglutaminase is Immunogenic and Potentially Pathogenic in Pediatric Celiac Disease, published in 2018, warns of the connection between eating foods processed with transglutaminase, a commonly used enzyme that improves shelf life and food texture. I can't help but assume it will also be used to bind the stem cell meats and fats and things together as well. It is said that transglutaminase inactivates with heat. They say it's safe. They say a lot of things are safe. So safe that you don't even need the option to avoid it. It's not listed on the ingredients list because, unless you're dealing with meat, it's just another processing aid, like the engineered tiny life factories. That's nothing you need to know about, right? Companies are shaking up the sweetener world too, whether it's brewing up sweet proteins with enslaved tiny life, coating silica granules with sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or salt to extend the taste while using less, or adding engineered mycelium, mycoproteins, to cut the bitterness of some of these novel foods. That's another way these techno products are being snuck into our food is through the catch-all of natural flavors, like the certified organic bitter blocker Clear Taste, used to make stevia, beer, protein powders, and more taste better. Natural flavors is a good thing to avoid in general. If they're not going to tell me what's in it, I'm not buying. Some of you might be thinking that you're safe from this food insanity. Maybe you raise chickens and that's where you get your eggs. But do you hatch and raise eggs your girls lay, or do you order chicks from a company? They are tampering with life on so many levels. At least one company is developing the tech to allow them to count their chickens before they hatch. They've used genome editing to make eggs that would have grown up to be male express a fluorescent marker on the sex chromosome, causing the eggs to light up when viewed under a fluorescent light. The eggs that show they'll be useless in the egg-laying world could be destined for the egg market, modified by CRISPR, and you don't need to know. And if you raise cattle, are they bred traditionally, or do you use artificial insemination? Since we know cloned DNA is allowed, can you be sure what you're getting? Just as they're feeding us synthetic biology, these frankenfoods, they have put their engineered tiny life in the animal feed. Check your labels for things like Bacillus subtilis. It and other bacillus strains are being marketed for humans too, in probiotics. It is reported that they create up to 25 antibiotics inside of you, and that they are competitive. It's a gut takeover. They've damaged your microbiome over the years with glyphosate and antibiotics, and now they have engineered a solution. Don't forget the biological stimulants. Companies isolate genes and enzymes, supposedly improve them, and then brew them up in fermentation tanks. Microbial consortia, which is said to be an emerging science, which takes bacteria and fungi that would not be together in nature, and they manipulate them together and brew. They're mixing up what kind of life grows on the roots of plants. What can't they manipulate? This food is not only highly processed, first requiring the modification and shocking back into action of tiny life, enslaved for the duration of its existence, made to do a completely unnatural process, secreting what could take the shape of so much of what's on your dinner table and served in your child's cafeteria. But think about these tiny lives being subjected to this, apparently too small, maybe not cute enough for PETA and the like. It seems the science genie has been let out of the bottle. If we want to return to a more sane and natural life, we need to make better choices every time we get the chance. We helped make this monster as big as it is, and we need to be the ones to take it down. No one is going to save us from this. We have to push back or get ready for the new normal. People have been programmed to go for cheap and tasty, and that's what we're going to get with the future costs unknown to us. Programmable living factories brewing up biogoop ready to be glued or 3D printed, destined for your plate. And eventually, I could see it turning into whoever controls the bioreactor makes the rules. We could make better choices, deal with farmers directly, set higher standards for how your food is produced. So far, no one is forcing you to eat these products, and no one is forcing you to grab fast food because it's easy and it's cheap. A little forethought and a crock pot can work magic for dinner even in the busiest of households. You need to know your farmers. You need to get to know your food. Otherwise, you really just can't be sure what you're eating anymore. We need to remove support from companies working with synthetic biology. Contact the companies that you buy from now and ask them if they or their suppliers are using biotechnology in the mix. I need your help. I need you to get this information out to people. In the description below, you'll find a link to the transcript of this presentation and the source links. Please use them and share. Thank you for listening.